So welcome back if you're coming back, and welcome if it's your first time and we're sharing guidance and everything to do with life. So there was a statement trying to sweep it under the rug. And I was like, man, that's gaslighting. They do something hurtful and then expect you to be okay with it or forget it and behave as if it never happened. In fact, they already convinced themselves that it never happened, and they want to convince you to the same thing so that they will not be made to feel accountable for what they had done. Is that for real? Really? Seriously? I mean, you can forgive, but it might not be forgotten, especially when you did not have a closure over it. Forgive, but don't forget. Do not forget, so that the next time they try to pull up the same trick on you, you would have been experienced and know what to do this time. And that's happening to someone. And most of the time, if they are someone who does not want to take accountability, they will never apologize, neither feel any kind of accountability for their actions. And although such traits can be labeled for general narcissistic traits, they might not be even narcissistic. It would be just that they were too selfish to own their own shit and accept that they did something awful or demeaning. And it hurts you when it feels like things are being overlooked and made to seem insignificant, or as it was not all that important in any way. And then you end up feeling like your feelings don't have a right to be validated and you don't matter. Only the others, and it's as if only the others' perception and view is made to seem important, and as if a mere joke has been done, and it's like, why are you making a whole fuss over nothing? Seriously, it irritates any normal individual. And that is just sheer gaslighting. They are like, why can't you just move on? Let's look at future, which is important. You get to be told, why do you always have to dig up the past dirty undies when it was already past and gone? Well, it was past and gone, but no one took accountability, and neither was there a closure for it. I mean, you don't have to have a closure with someone each and every time. You can do the closure on your own by forgiving and trying to forget it. Of course, you can't forget it because it will always come up if the person keeps repeating the same thing. Anything that has no closure is bonded to keep repeating itself on and off, and unless somebody decides to face the truth and address the issue, it is never solved. And if it's in that situation, then it's up to you to just create a closure for it. Forgive that person and just let it go. People need to sit down and talk about what happened in clear, expressive ways. No shortcuts. Every detail matters. Especially for women, details really matter. Two people, a man and a woman, could have very different perceptions about the same memory they share. The feminine looks at it in an emotional way, and the masculine chooses logic over emotions. And the details are important for a feminine, while the result is what matters for a masculine. And both need to be empathic with each other to really understand the other's view. Otherwise, coming to an understandably midpoint where that they could share would be hard and difficult. They will keep accumulating more and more grudge towards each other with each and every other misunderstanding. For example, the lady would want to just be had to have the other be present and just be psychologically supportive, while the gentleman might want to solve the problem by looking for solutions which the lady would not have been asking for from the beginning. They just want to be heard and felt appreciated. I mean, the women. And feel acknowledged over their feelings, while the gentleman would want to have problems solved because they believe that is how they gain respect, by solving the problems. Respect is what keeps a man going, and being cherished and loved is what keeps a woman going. And it's the same, okay, men also want to be loved and cherished, but respect is what is most important for a man. However, when issues are swept under the rug, instead of being solved in the right way, blockages start occurring between two people. Doesn't matter what gender, depending on their gender, they would react according to their human nature. A woman would start feeling isolated, abandoned, and feel lonely, while a man would feel disrespected and not appreciated. Both would feel as if they were not being heard. And you know what happens? Hearts start swaying apart, and each individual sails away in their own boat emotionally, long before they physically sail away. And then slowly, that's when all the shouting and screaming starts. Each person, because they feel they are not heard. They think that by screaming louder, they would be heard. But instead of that happening, what happens is that the other party starts getting irritated and triggered by the loud noise, and they also do the same thing and shout back. Now, if two people shout at the same time, no one will be heard. They won't hear each other, and more grudge occurs. And now they start noticing the disdainful look they throw at each other. It is actually they are trying to show the other that they are hurt, but it gets misunderstood for a hateful look, and because they don't want to see the pain they cause the other, they shut themselves off. And with time, they end up giving each other silent treatment, because they start feeling as if the other does not value anything of what they have to say, thinking that their right to express themselves has been violated. And because they feel violated this time, they start looking for ways to get out of the situations because it frustrates them. Women go looking for anyone who is willing to give an ear to what they want to share. It doesn't matter good or bad. They just want to feel validated for what they want to say and feel. I'm not saying that it is healthy. No, it is not. Wanting to look for validation from an external force will not make you happy in any way unless it is reciprocated. You validate and they validate. If it's reciprocated, but if it's not reciprocated, there's going to be problems. But you need to validate yourself first, to have emotional balance, so that you know that you don't need to go seeking for anything external to cater for your needs and wants. So it's just natural that women would want to feel validated for their emotional needs, especially if they are coming from a dysfunctional family culture. But if they're from a healthy family culture, they would not look for that external validation, and they would solve that on their own, as long as they have someone who genuinely listens with presence to them. And of course, most of the time, for those people who have healthy relationship with their families, they have people who genuinely listen to them. Because they make genuine connections and relationships and healthy relationships with people. And if the person they expect to do that is not offering that support, they get to feel sort of abandoned, and that causes issues in relationships, because it is lack of communication. Communication means it's two-way, not just one way, and a person is made to feel like they are conversing with a wall that does not serve their needs. And the man, what does he do? He goes seeking for those who would make him feel respected and appreciated. And generally, it is thought that once a man feels someone is needing them and they appreciate what they do, they feel respected. And they stick to that. But sometimes it just ends up that they get exploited by those who really do not care for them. So they have to be mindful as well. Not just anyone who seems to be like they need you and they appreciate what you do for you means that they really appreciate you and respect you. Because unfortunately, there are people who like exploiting other people. They want so for the men, they want to see the satisfaction of the joy they would feel by how they served a person, and this makes them feel, how do I say this, makes them feel almost manly. They feel like they have fulfilled missions, and they feel as if they are whole. It's like men feel great when they feel like they've fulfilled missions. However, when that is not given, they feel disrespected and feel as if they have failed and that they were just wasting time and resources. So they start backing off from serving duties to those whom they think are not serving their purpose of respect. I'm not saying this is healthy either, because respect for men is gained by appreciation to their service, but when they feel unappreciated, they look elsewhere, and that is understandable. Only that some men use this to try and control people, doesn't matter male or female. And the way they feel unappreciated is when they are criticized over whatever effort they have done. And going and looking for other sources when you feel unappreciated, sometimes is not a solution if you're not mindful of whom you choose to feel fulfilled in your mission. Now, I'm not saying they are right to retreat, especially when it concerns narcissists, because narcissists use this retreatment to punish people. And they are even, I'm not saying men are narcissists, mind you. I'm talking about normal men, and there is a difference between normal, healthy, matured men and narcissist men. And there are even female narcissists as well who would use unappreciation and criticism to demean people, especially men. Because narcissists have a way of giving very absurd services that would not serve you, and then they expect you to appreciate what they have done when they really weren't doing anything that would have been of use for you. So they take the retreatment and silent treatments and guilt tripping and blah blah blah, all kinds of gaslighting to get you to surrender to their control. And if you're a normal person who has healthy boundaries, you don't get to fall for their traps. Now, when we come back to the male retreating, they feel the need to go to their cave and reflect on what happened, because it is when they are in motion when they feel like their brainstorming works better. In the sense that they look for things to keep themselves busy. Most men throw themselves to their work and profession, and they become sort of workaholic, because that is where they get the satisfaction of being useful and feel respected for the effort they put out. But if it's a dysfunctional kind of a male, masculine kind of a man, they will go find somebody else who doesn't have healthy boundaries, who is not so grounded, to use to get control. And they think by controlling the other individual, that is how they're getting respect, and it's not. It's just making them go down the rabbit hole even further. So when when men retreat, with that they drift away from the person they think has disrespected them. And that, dear folks, is how never-ending disagreements end up continuing. It is just as simple as that people feel unappreciated, and throwing everything under the rug It's just one of the ways that could cause an appreciation towards someone, and you just might lose that person with being disregardless. So if that person decides to throw things under the rug, they ought to know that they are just going to create misunderstandings that would result with heavy bad consequences that might not be able to be rectified unless they take accountability. Male, female, doesn't matter. You can just throw spears and sparks right, left, and then expect people to remain where you left them and just accept what you did without you taking accountability and owning to your shit and do something to rectify it. Some things maybe can't be rectified, but still, if relationships are to continue in harmony, people need to acknowledge and reflect on what their actions are and look for ways to fill in the empty spaces for their own good and everyone else's. And I hope that helps someone understand that if someone you know does not accept accountability, they have just signed a never going back contract to destroy the beautiful thing they had with you, and that no one needs to accept the BS and just sit there and accept their bad attitudes and actions. Please let us all be mindful. It is the small things that pile up and become mountains one day, and then we can't get to the peak because it will be too huge for us to handle and can cause lasting effects, bad effects. Don't go to sleep without solving your problems and challenges. Otherwise, you will accumulate a huge amount of misunderstandings that would make you hurt each other for no reason. So, till next time, take care of yourselves, be kind and loving. With much love, God bless.